And now, you're tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
Greetings, listeners and fans. Welcome to another thrilling episode of RBLR Bucs, your ultimate source of all things Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm your host, Musa, and boy, do we have an electrifying show lined up for you today. Our beloved Buccaneers are now on an undefeated streak this season so far. We are 2-0, baby. And the excitement in the air is, I would probably say, palpable. With every game, we inch closer to greatness, but there's a pivotal matchup we got coming up this Monday that has the entire Tampa Bay area buzzing with anticipation, but we'll talk about that later on. That being said, before I dive in headfirst, how can I continue without introducing to you my co-captain of this ship, the man who eats, sleeps, and breathes Buccaneers football. He is the one and only Carter Brantley. How you doing, Carter?
Oh, I'm doing wonderful. Living lavish. How about yourself, Musab? How are you doing today?
So far, so good. Yeah, I am honestly just ecstatic with our 2-0 start. I am rather surprised. But then again, I mean, we are looking mad different. I think that, well, I'll say this for myself. I wasn't expecting this. What about you?
I was not. Our producer said he didn't have it on his scorecard that they'd be 2-0, and I'm with them.
Yeah.
I was kind of pleasantly surprised for sure. So yeah, I mean, we'll get into it real quick. Obviously the Bucks took on the Bears this past week. They took home the dub. Or it was the home opener. It's always exciting to start your first game against the home fans. And it was a really nice start. 27-17 ended up being the final. There were a lot of great plays on both sides of the ball, and it's just been a great week for the city of Tampa, man. I tell you what, the Rays clinched the postseason. The Bucs go to 2-0. They got a new stadium for the Rays. It's been a really amazing time to be in the city of Tampa. So yeah, it was a really fun game. A lot of great plays on both sides of the ball, like I mentioned. But to kind of start out, you got to start on the defensive side of the ball because I think the first 2 weeks they've just been so good. They've obviously the Bears and the Vikings have their own share of problems, and they're not necessarily the elite teams of the NFL, but they're still NFL teams. The whole any given Sunday spiel. So the Bucs defense played incredibly well. And JTS, my goodness, that man looked like a first round pick. He looked really, really good. He submitted a stellar performance. Was this, in your mind, kind of a JTS breakout game?
For sure. I would definitely say that just because I think this is what we were hoping would happen with JTS, hoping that he would, step up to the plate this upcoming season or this season right now. And that's what we're seeing right now. I want to give also a shout out to just everyone on defense. One thing I really noticed against this Bears game was a lot of just like team tackling. For example, in the second quarter, we had that great effort between JTS and Shaq Bear to get that quick three and now. It's exactly what I wanted to see or what I was expecting for our Buccaneers defense to really bully around Justin Fields and the rest of the Bears. And I mean, overall, just super happy with what I saw from JTS. And I got high hopes that he's going to be balling out for sure for the rest of the season.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if he continues to play like this, the Bucs are going to be a tough team to beat. Because him and Shaq Barrett coming off the edge could become that kind of dynamic duo that JPP and Shaq were during the Super Bowl run, and they were really fun to watch, and they were really dangerous, especially obviously in that Super Bowl. They were both just eating Patrick Mahomes alive. So I'm with you. It was really the whole defense. It was a group effort. There's not really one guy that you can point at and say he was the reason they won. It was really everyone. So that's really encouraging because obviously if one guy balls out, kind of carries them on their back, that guy can slip. But if it's the whole team, then yeah, I don't know. It's going to be really tough to beat the Bucs, by outscoring them by a bunch of points moving forward. I think if they continue to play like this. Um, but obviously, we mentioned the pass rush, the JTS and Shaq Barrett dynamic duo kind of are emerging. How confident are you that they can keep this up? I know that the Bucs or the Vikings and the Bears, like we mentioned, have their own problems offensively, and both of their offensive lines are kind of rough. Justin Fields seemed to struggle with decision making, and Kirk Cousins is about as mobile as you and I. So it's kind of tough to really say that they were playing against some tough teams, but it's realistic for them to keep this up, I think. How about you, Musab? Are you maybe a little bit more pessimistic, a little more cautious?
Yeah, I guess I would probably say a little bit more cautious. Yeah, I mean the Vikings and the Bears, they're not good teams at all. But I will say is that our upcoming game against the Eagles have played the Vikings. They actually played them last week on Thursday, and it's not like they completely ran them over. Okay, I believe the Vikings had actually racked up 5 sacks themselves. So I think there's a possibility for sure to keep on, performing like this. I think obviously as every week goes on, every team is going to try to find their weaknesses and they're going to try to figure out how they can kind of diminish those kind of things. So that is something to think about. But I mean, I think we got that energy for sure, especially from someone like JTS. He's a young stud, he's a beast. I mean, what we saw from him, for example, that first drive in the third quarter where he just shot out like a cannon and got that sack in the first
Yeah.
drive against the
Mhm.
Bears, that was amazing. It's like he timed it perfectly. So that being said, I'm optimistic that it can happen. I don't know, maybe this upcoming game, maybe not, but we have potential for sure, and there should be no excuse as to why we can't continue something like that.
Absolutely. I think at the very least, the Bucks can at least make this game far more competitive than I think any of us thought that it would be against the Eagles. But like you said, they do have a great offensive line. But long term, I certainly do expect them to be able to kind of keep up at least a relatively large amount of success because JTS seems to have figured something out. I don't know what it is, and I hope hopefully he can continue. But kind of shifting our focus to the back of the defense, Christian Eisen came away with another interception, 2 for 2 weeks. He's 2 for 2, batting 1,000 in that regard. It was kind of I don't want to say a meaningless interception, but it definitely sealed the game even more than the Shaq Barrett pick six. Has he been kind of the rookie of the team so far? I mean, an undrafted free agent being the best rookie on the team, but I gotta say, if we had to pick a rookie of the year for the Bucks right now, he'd be it. Are you in agreement with that statement?
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, with all respect to all the rookies, I mean, he's the one who's really kind of standing out from the rest of them. I'm just honestly so surprised to see what he's been able to do for us. He was everywhere, including these 2 interceptions he's had these last 2 games. Even that hard hit by Devin White, to cause that potential fumble. He was able to kind of scoop that up for sure. And then just the whole kind of team effort. I think that whatever he's doing, I think he's clicking really well with the rest of the veterans, like Antoine Winfield for sure, who also had a really big hit for Christian Eisen to get that interception. So he's always around the ball. And just to summarize it, I really like the kid Carter. I got high hopes that he's going to be super helpful this upcoming season or this season. I gotta say upcoming.
No,
Still, I don't.
I get
Yeah,
you.
we got a long season, so yeah,
For
that's what I've
sure.
been.
Hey, it's only week 3, it's still very much in progress. But yeah, I'm with you. It seems like he's really established a niche on this team. And I think that's wonderful to see because that slot position was so up in the air. I don't think any of us really knew what direction the Bucks were going to go with that. Whether they were going to bring somebody in, they had committed to sticking Antoine Winfield in the safety position and not moving him. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Last season, they kind of moved him around quite a bit. And obviously, they stumbled onto something here. Christian Eisen seems to be very comfortable in that role. And if he continues to ball out like he has been, to say something they usually say, if he keeps balling out, then he's going to be, he's going to be up for maybe defensive rookie of the year conversation. I mean, he's been playing really well. So that's been really fun to see. But now flipping our focus to the offensive side of the ball, Baker had just another week, another really solid game. I don't want to say it's like, he's putting up Pro Bowl numbers, MVP, but he's been really, really good. And he's not turning the ball over. He's taking care of the football. He's making good decisions. His third down numbers are insane. I mean, I think he has like an 89% completion percentage on third down. It's just ridiculous. Obviously not sustainable, but still an incredibly encouraging amount of success in that regard. So in your opinion, kind of looking at the hierarchy of the NFC South quarterbacks, obviously it's not super competitive, but still in my mind, Baker Mayfield's kind of head and shoulders above the competition. Like Derek Carr's been very so-so, even though the Saints are 2-0. Same with Desmond Ritter. Those two teams have started out 2-0 for other reasons other than the quarterback. So in my opinion, Baker's number one. Musab, how about you? Do you agree with this assessment of the NFC quarterbacks or NFC South quarterback situation?
Yes, absolutely. Listen, I mean, I know it's only been 2 games, but I think there's enough evidence to see that, Baker is doing really well with our Buccaneers organization. He is far better than advertised. And to be honest, I'm surprised. Honestly,
Yeah,
when he has his back to the wall, this is when he's excellent, is what I've come to realize. The Bears, they just couldn't wrap him up. That's actually what one of the coaches had mentioned during the
for sure.
halftime. And I forgot who they were interviewing, but he had mentioned that he says, we're getting there, but we can't wrap him up. So,
Yeah,
the mobility by Baker Mayfield is key to our success. One example of him elevating our offense, and just small things that just conglomerate together, like diving on that fumble, just kind of shows what kind of player he is. Overall, I'm liking him more and more. He is a go-getter. He's fun to watch. He's working, a lot better than before with Mike Evans. So shout out to Zach Blaine. You were right about that. He just probably need a little bit more time to cook up something with Evans. And yeah, I mean, Carter, you mentioned already, the Saints and the Falcons are 2-0 for other reasons. And that's exactly how I feel as well. The reason why we are 2-0 is because our quarterback is leading this team uh, very successfully.
right. Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you. I mean, Baker Mayfield is no small reason as to why the Bucks are 2-0 right now. He's been absolutely fantastic, and he's been playing really well. So yeah, I mean, without Baker Mayfield, I don't, if they put Kyle Trask in there, God forbid, they would not be 2-0 right now. So I was really encouraged by that. And kind of in that same breath, Baker was able to hit Mike Evans for quite a bit of yardage this past week, over 170 yards. He managed to squeeze in a touchdown there as well. Mike Evans submitting a Randy Moss like performance, just ridiculously efficient as well. Only 6 catches for 170 yards, just some really insane numbers there. So what does this mean for contract negotiations? I mean, Evans looked pretty good in week 1, but this was obviously a whole nother level. Do you think maybe the Bucs are more willing to, hey, Mike, you played really well last week. You want to come back to the negotiating table, or do you think maybe the Bucs still have to wait and see, since he is a little bit long in the tooth?
I'll probably say maybe waited a couple of more weeks, and then maybe some discussions will be a lot more solidified. But what we saw was definitely, the Mike that we know, Carter. And I think that, as time goes on, I think his chemistry with Baker Mayfield, it's going to improve. What we saw this last game against the Bears. I mean, I know they're the Bears, so there's something to think about that as well. But I was really happy with what I saw with only the 6 completions he had. I mean, he honestly was a stud and just running down the court. He's a big guy. He made some really important and awesome plays just with his size as well. So I don't know. We'll see. Carter, I'm never too fond of discussing too much about the whole contract negotiations. I'm just a
Right.
podcast host. I'm just a
Right.
fan, man. I'm not that guy in the front office, but I will say that we'll probably need a little bit more time, is what I'm thinking.
Absolutely, because unfortunately, injury bug can sometimes affect him. Knock on wood, he still
Yeah.
hasn't really had an injury-plagued season, but with the guy at his age, it's certainly possible. But like you mentioned, he was just so good, really looking like Mike Evans. I mean, I hate to be so cliche and simplistic, but like you said, he's a super physical receiver, so he's able to use that big 6'5" frame of his to kind of just out muscle corners. And he was doing that all day Sunday. So it was fantastic to see. Really a joy to watch for sure. And another aspect of this offense that was really a pleasant surprise was Rashad White. He had himself quite a game, both catching the football and obviously running it. The run game in general just looked really, really good. They finally cracked 100 yards, so that's really encouraging. I don't know. I was really, really, really happy with Rashad White's performance. There were a lot of Cam Akers was available for trade this past week, and he ended up going to the Vikings. And there were some people that said, "Oh, well, maybe the Bucks need to look into trading for him because Chase Edmonds, unfortunately, looks like he might be done for a while." So yeah, I was really encouraged by his performance. Does this kind of ease your concerns about the running game a little bit? It kind of did for me, but maybe you feel you need to see a little bit more.
I am a little bit more eased. I will say that for sure. And what I will say is, I was, pretty satisfied with Rashad White's performance. But one
For
thing I
sure.
kind of, what I liked the most in regards to the run game was, I know some of those plays weren't really working specifically, but I love how we were kind of mixing it up and not really kind of just running it up, in the gut for no gain. That's what I kind of really appreciated. And yeah, shout out to Rashad White. Within like the last minute of the first half, just overall amazing execution, just grinding yards down the field, allowing for, Trey Palmer to also get some opportunities as well. And then even with, a few minutes left in the game, just overall, just really good runs by him as well. I think he probably just needs a little bit more time to warm up. I'm not going to, completely just put him on the pedestal and say, he's our solidified RB1. He's our hero in the run game. But what I did see from him is improvement. So I think, if anything, I expect him to just improve as weeks go on.
Absolutely. Yeah, he's not quite to, the Derrick Henry or the Saquon Barkley
Right.
echelon of running backs. Like you said, it's a step forward. And for a group that has seen so much stagnant growth as opposed to actual growth, it was like you said, it was really encouraging. But yeah, still need to see a few more weeks, especially since the Bears defense is very below average at best, borderline horrible. So it's a bit easy to kind of rack up some yardage and do your thing against a defense like that. But this Eagles game will be a huge test, in all aspects of Bucs football, but especially the running game. But I love that it was able to set up the play action game. Especially, it was just so nice to see the Bucs be able to do that. I mean, it's just been so long, it feels like, since they've been able to do stuff like that and have play calls like that. So shout out Dave Canales as well. He called a great game. It was really fun to watch. So taking a kind of a little bit of a step back, who was your not because who's your player of the game? But I want to preface this, not Mike Evans, because Mike Evans was so good that if you ask me, he's the player of the game automatically. He was ridiculous. So other than Mike Evans, who was your player of the game for the Bucs this past week?
Oh man, I'm just gonna have to go Baker Mayfield. Honestly, that first game, I was like, all right, sweet. I'm happy, I guess, with what we got, with Baker. But his performance against the Bears, again, I know they're the Bears, but listen, this is a whole new team he's working with. I mean, that everyone's working with. Honestly, it's a whole new offense, new offensive coordinator as well. Honestly, his mobility is really key to our past successes, and I just love that. He's a dog. Honestly, no matter what happens, he gets the ball away. For example, I forgot what play it was. I think maybe it was a couple minutes left in the first quarter or the first drive, maybe I think it was in the third quarter. But anyways, he's about to go down, but boom, still gets to
Yeah,
the Cade Otton or
yeah,
something, and then
yeah.
he had a nice catch to Mike Evans. I know he was about to get, you kind of running a little bit around, and then boom, to Mike Evans right by the out of bounds area. So I mean, I already kind of was already hyping him up before. So what I will summarize it is just that, he's a go-getter, he's a dog, he's tough, and I don't think he's gonna give up, especially with a 2-0 run like we have right now. I think this is what our whole Buccaneers organization needed. I think this is what all the players needed. And, with him being our leader on the offense, I think that he is aware of what we're able to do, and I think now he knows what he's capable of doing.
For sure. Yeah, I think staying within yourself. I know that's kind of another cliche sports thing that you always get told as a kid growing up playing sports, stay within yourself, know your limits. But, it's true. It's cliche because it's true. And I think Baker exemplifies that. Like you said, he knows what he can do, he knows what he can't do, which is way more important. And yeah, like you said, that little, like you mentioned, the sidearm throw as he was getting tackled. If Patrick Mahomes does that, that's all we see on ESPN, NBC, across all the sports channels are, showing that clip over and over again because it's Patrick Mahomes and all that stuff. Sorry, I don't mean to be hating on Patrick Mahomes, but it's just, it's kind of annoying. Anyways, so yeah, that's, he was really, really good. My guy was JTS just because I think we've kind of been pretty harsh on him, and deservedly so. He has not had a good start to his career, in the context of his draft status. And he really performed well last week. And if he just continues to play with the energy that he showed, I think that he can really do some fantastic things in the NFL, especially this season with Shaq Barrett seemingly playing just as inspired. They're both really, really playing hard. And even if, the Bucs don't necessarily have a great season, but if those two guys are just keeping up their pace, then that's encouraging in and of itself. Especially since JTS is probably going to be around next year. So, it's going to be encouraging if they can have kind of a solidified, at least one solidified edge rushing piece going into next season. So yeah, he played great last week. But another great aspect of the Bucs organization overall is definitely some gear. And you know who has the best gear? RBLR shop. That stuff is fire. You got to check it out. We got all the stuff, the Rays, the Bucs, the Lightning, the Rowdies. If you want to celebrate the Rays getting their new stadium, or the Bucs being 2-0, or the Lightning doing their thing, or the Rowdies and the fact that they've had 5 head coaches in the past year, hey, check out our shop, shop.rblrsports.com. And you can type in the code CANNON, CANNONS, for 10% off your order. Just check it out. We've definitely got some good stuff. All right. After that shameless shop plug, we're back and we have a surprise guest. My boy, Julian Ramirez, the biggest Eagles fan I know, and he's got the biggest Eagles hat ever. Julian, say what's up to the people for us.
How you guys doing? I appreciate the introduction, but I would have to say I'm the second biggest Eagles fan. I think I have another one around here somewhere.
Go Birds!
Oh, man.
Oh.
Fly, Eagles fly, on the road to victory. Fight, 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 Eagles fly.
Oh, man.
Touchdown, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, hit 'em low, hit 'em high. Watch our Eagles fly, fly, Eagles fly, on the road to victory. EAGLES, Eagles!
Oh, shit. Oh, man. That was hype. Oh, man. Now I feel bad this is a Bucs show, but
Yeah.
That was hype. Hell yeah. Thank you all so much for
doing
joining.
that every time we score. So hopefully you'll be hearing a lot of that in the stadium come Monday night.
Hope we're not
Right.
hearing
Yeah. I mean, shoot, maybe y'all have to be singing that quite a bit if things go according to plan. But yeah, I appreciate y'all coming on. Thank you so much. I wanted to start off, like, I know both teams are coming in 2-0, but I feel like the Bucs have, kind of a little bit less pressure in this game because they're not the favorites. The Bucs are definitely looking at this as kind of a, hey, if we start out 3-0, great. How do you think the Eagles can kind of counteract this kind of phenomena of playing against the underdog?
I think at the beginning of the season, when we looked at this game, we definitely had a lot higher expectations that it would be a definite win. But I honestly, from a Bucs point of view, Baker's come out and actually had the offense moving pretty well. And the Eagles have kind of struggled to score at times. We get off to these really fast starts in the first 2 games, and then the second and third quarter has been kind of rough. So I definitely am a lot more concerned about this game than I was to start out the season. What do you think?
Well, I think you guys are like, what, 6.5 point home dogs or something like that? It's somewhere in there. You guys are definitely underdogs coming in the game, but you guys have the momentum, right? Because you guys have been doing your thing unexpectedly against, well, the Bears are nothing, but the win against the Vikings was solid. And Baker Mayfield has looked much better than I think any of you guys probably anticipated.
Yeah.
Yep. We're waiting for Trask, right? I mean, at some point, at some point he's got to come in, and Nick has turned that around. But your defense is solid, and your defense has not missed a beat, and that's the thing. The Eagles have won, and but everything in Philly is like, well, at least we're 2-0. I mean, that literally is the attitude, and that's what the players are being asked all the time. The coach, everybody's being asked, like, yeah, but it wasn't pretty, And they're like, okay, but we're 2-0. But that's the sentiment, is that we're at least 2-0. And it is because everybody's expecting that Super Bowl hangover.
Yeah.
And if we have that, but we're 2-0, I'm okay with that, as long as we're able to maintain.
For sure.
Now we're going strength against strength because we realized our passing game isn't where it's supposed to be with our new offensive coordinator, but our strength is our running game. And you guys have a ridiculous running defense. I mean, just absolutely insane. I mean, who's moving Vita Vea? I mean,
Yeah, I mean that Jason Kelsey that Kelsey Vedas battle is going to be
amazing. Yeah, exactly. So it is going to. We feel like the Eagles, even though they're the favorites for the game, and they've covered each of the 2 games that they played against the spread. But it just hasn't been pretty. And so coming
like a
on the
trap
road,
game almost.
It does. It does, as weird as it seems. But I guess the flip side of that would be, because it hasn't been pretty, they know there's more room for improvement. It's not like they're coming in like, oh, we got this. I don't think they're coming in with that attitude at all. So I think they have had 11 days by the time we face you guys to prepare for that game.
We might be prisoners of the success of last season, because last season we were just kind of steamrolling through teams. Yeah. And this season, it's been a little harder to get to those wins. We've gotten there, but it's definitely not been as pretty as we would have hoped.
For sure.
How are you guys seeing it?
Go ahead, Musa.
Yeah, I mean, it's been an interesting, first 2 weeks, I think, for the whole league overall. I mean, I think, Carter and I, we were talking about it earlier. I mean, we are quite surprised that we're 2-0 as well as of right now. And, I mean, yeah, look, the Eagles are 2-0 right now. A win's a win. And, y'all got some stars out there. Hurts, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. Y'all got an amazing defense. But I want to know is, are there any like kind of hidden gems, that don't get as much credit as they should, in Philly?
Yes. I mean, obviously we have a new starting right guard, and that's been a plus, because he was drafted to be the Kelsey replacement. And he's small for a right guard, but he has been playing great in the running game. I mean, he has been playing really, really solid in the running game, and I think that all of the deficiencies in the passing game have been because we are trotting out some new people out there. On the defense is where you're going to have to find the gems, because, I mean, the offense, everybody knows who they are. I mean, we do have Swift, and trust me, adding Swift, I think, is a big plus. I mean, everybody saw what he did last week, and that guy, he will run with some purpose, and he is super shifty. It's amazing. And then that zero, that is clean. I mean, it's just beautiful to watch that guy play. On the defense, I would say that the hidden gems, and hopefully he's back this week, is our new safety, is Blankenship. Reed Blankenship is an undrafted guy last year, made it onto the field when CJ got hurt, and he never looked back. I mean, he was always being put in rotation because he played lights out. He's a special teams guy, but he played lights out. And this year, so much so that they left him off of any preseason games because he was the definite safety starter. And we lost just about everybody on the back of the back seven for the Birds. And so having him there as that anchor, he was out last week, and you guys saw against Minnesota, the tight end went off.
Hawkinson was nasty.
Yep.
And then there were a couple of plays that had blown coverage. The one touchdown that they had to the wide receiver, that was done on a completely blown coverage because our 2 green dot guys, the guys that are getting the calls, were both out. Our starting middle linebacker in 17.
Nakobe Dean.
Yeah, Nakobe Dean, because he's out for like 4 or 5 weeks, and then Reed Blankenship was out with ribs. And so these 2 guys being out really, really hurt communication, because everybody else is super, super new. Now, obviously on the defensive line, no hidden gem, and you guys saw how happy we were when we drafted we were last with you with drafting Carter. Now Nolan Smith hasn't shown up yet. He hasn't been put in the rotation yet, but he hasn't needed to. But Carter is
I think a guy that doesn't get the credit that's had a really, really good season is Josh Sweat. He hasn't received the attention because obviously Jalen Carter's going so good, and Davis is stepping up, and Hassan
everybody's
Reddick,
waiting for Reddick, right?
And Reddick.
That's the
but
focus.
Josh Sweat has been absolutely brilliant, really high rating in all the games, and he's got no attention out of it because everyone's so focused on the Philly Dogs and the defensive linemen, which are doing a phenomenal job. But Josh Sweat, I think, has really stepped into his own and really helped the right side of the defensive line.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, Josh Sweat's always a guy that I think really flies under everyone's radar just constantly, just because he falls victim to that. The defense is really good, so you focus on the really good players, but Josh Sweat's also a really good player. So it's kind of hard. He kind of falls victim of kind of blending in with the crowd. But kind of in the opposite version of that, is there anything either positive or negative? This doesn't have to be a pleasant surprise, but are there any big surprises? Like, what's the biggest surprise that y'all have seen from the Eagles so far this season?
Play calling. It really has been. There's no rhythm to the offense. They had to switch. You listen a lot, and you read a lot about what's going on, right? And really, the 2 first weeks were like the worst weeks for the Eagles to start. And obviously, this one presents the same exact challenge, and that is defenses and defensive coordinators that know how to figure out how to limit Hurts doing Hurts things, right? And I mean, obviously, with you guys, with that playoff game, I mean, we know what you guys bring to the table on defense and how crazy it is. Same thing with Belichick and with Brian Flores last week.
Yeah, Vikings.
Yeah. And that same tree, right, from the Belichick tree, what they did, and I was listening to from NFL Films, Cosell, and he was saying that the stuff that he's seeing on film makes like no sense. Like the coverages that they're throwing are so outrageous that they're just not normal defenses. So
Right.
people are throwing things out because they're like, what we need to do is confuse,
Sure.
create chaos.
Right.
And the Eagles have not figured out how to fix that yet. Now, we just had a mini bye week. So hopefully they actually got in the film room and saw, okay, this is what they're doing. This is the next step, right? To try and help that Hurts progression. Because it seems like he's actually regressed somewhat because of how limited the offense has been under the new coordinator with what the defenses are doing after a whole summer and a whole off season of knowing and trying to break that down. Because once we got in the rhythm last year, it was lights out. I mean, you guys saw it. It was insane. It was such, everybody was like, the progression is, be candidate. And now, if you have that much time to figure him out or to figure out what the Eagles were doing as an offense,
It really slows things down.
It really slows things down.
I think for me, the biggest surprise, and it's been unfortunate, is just not being able to get Dallas Goedert the ball, like, at all. This is a top 10, maybe even top 5 tight end in the league, and you don't even, like, he's 1 catch and then 0 catches. You're not getting him involved, and this man is such a dynamic player just down the field, so difficult to cover, but yet it seems like we're still having some issues because we have a lot of players to throw the ball to, and you guys saw with the A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts on the sideline where he was getting frustrated of not getting targets because it was more of a Devontae Smith game.
Right.
There's a lot of people to get the ball to. We're starting to come into those problems that people aren't as happy of not getting targets. And it's unfortunate because Goddard should be getting the ball in any other offense. He would be getting the ball a ton. But in this offense, we're kind of using it like a blocking, very short routes and nothing what he likes to do.
Yeah, we're still not targeting the middle of the field, which was the problem with Hurts in 21. That he just wasn't hitting the middle of the field. He wasn't seeing it, and last year he did, and he did it flawlessly. And this last game they tried to get the ball to Goddard, but they ended up doing it on bubble screens, and so he had 6 receptions for 29 yards.
That's not his game.
Yeah, that's not Goddard's game, right? I mean, he's a down the field guy. He's very Kelsey-like in that regard. But I don't know. It's not what we expected. But again, like I said, this is the sentiment. At least we're 2-0.
At least we're 2-0. Yeah, we can say that as well. Guys, along with the target issue that, y'all are mentioning as well, as we all know, the Eagles are the favorites. But, what's going to have to happen for them to lose the game?
It will be like everything else, well, there's 2 things. I think the main one will be our defense, trying to control Evans and all of the weapons that you guys have, and Godwin, and having Baker Mayfield just take over the game. He hasn't faced the pressure that I think the Eagles are going to bring. And once Baker gets out of rhythm, and you make him hold it just a little bit longer, that's where he struggles. Because he's a timing guy. He's really, really good at it. And he's got a cannon for an arm. So if you don't let the play develop and you get there quick, then you're disrupting him, and that makes things more difficult. So but that our back 7 is really injured and has been really going through growing pains. We knew that we did not put any resources into safety or linebacker, like at all. And our starting middle linebacker is now out for 4 to 6 weeks, and our safety is coming back after being injured and missing a game already. And this is only his first year really starting.
We're not deep in those positions at all.
Yeah, exactly. We have no depth. So, and we just lost our slot corner, Avante Maddox, for the season.
Yeah, right. I saw that.
And his backup, we lost in the preseason. So we literally have no. I mean, we have Mario Goodrich, who is a player who's super young, very green, and not really all that great. I mean, he was third for a reason. So now it's a matter of juggling. So I think the defense will be the tail of the tape. Is if the guys can't get there, if the front, because we literally rely on the front four getting home. If those guys can't get there, that will be where you guys just take over the game.
To me, I think if the Bucs get out to a early lead and force us to get away from that run game and start just relying on Hurts to throw 40, 45 times, and you start frustrating those outside wide receivers, it can get really messy for our offense. So if the Bucs are able to score quickly or get an early turnover and score, I think you're going to put our offense that likes to run the ball. You put them in a bit of a one-dimensional type of a setting, and then that's when things can get ugly. And I think that would be the way we would lose this game if the Bucs get out to any type of early lead and we start letting those whispers that we've been hearing the last 2 games start get to the players. We're down in the game. And if you can frustrate A.J. Brown, it seems like, or if you can frustrate some of these players from not getting the ball, then you can do a lot of damage.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you already kind of mentioned it, Julian. You hit the nail on the head with the Eagles played last season, just kind of beating the crap out of everyone. So they kind of just jumped out to these early leads, and then they just handed the ball to Miles Sanders, or just did whatever they had to do to just kind of melt the clock and let the game kind of finish. So yeah, I'm with you. I think turnovers. I mean, I hate to sound so cliche because everyone says, "Oh, turnovers," but it's true. It's unfortunately, it's just the truth of the matter. If Baker goes out there and throws a pair of interceptions, then this might get pretty ugly pretty quick. But vice versa, if Hurts commits a couple of turnovers, or if they have some fumbles or dinks and doinks, then yeah, the Bucs could jump out to a lead.
Dalen has already thrown more picks.
He threw 1 pick and he fumbled the ball once. So
he's turned the ball over more times, like throughout these 2 games, and he had in like 8 or 10 games last season. So
yeah, I remember that was the big thing with Hurts last year, was that he took care of the ball better than pretty much anyone in the NFL, which was really impressive because he's super athletic, has a good arm, so he can do a lot of good things on the football field. But he seemed to be putting all of it together, so to speak. So yeah, I was really. Yeah, I'm kind of intrigued to see how this all plays out. So speaking of that, it's prediction time, where we love to do predictions at the end of each episode, and now we have some Eagles fans to do some predictions.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, so I'll go first. I'll kick things off. I've got Philly winning 20-10. I think that it's going to be a bit of a defensive battle. Both of these defenses are really, really good, and unfortunately, I think that Philly's so freaking good, on offense and defense, that I just think it's going to be really tough. Philly's still my Super Bowl pick, so I can't go against my Super Bowl pick. Wissam, how about you? Who you got in this game?
Ooh, for me, I think it's going to be a little bit different as in the score, but the result, I'm thinking the same thing. I won't be surprised if the Eagles do win this. As y'all were mentioning about the kind of slow start, I think it might be a slow start on both ends, and I think it's going to be a battle throughout the whole game. It's going to be a little up and down kind of game. But for me, I'm going 24-21. Eagles win. I think the Bucs will keep it close, but I think a few dinks and doinks are going to allow the Eagles to finally close it with the win.
For sure. How about y'all? What are y'all's picks for this game?
The Birds are going to fix it. They're getting right. They've had 11 days to get this thing figured out, and Hurts is a man on a mission. Birds win this thing 31-13.
31-13, reversing the score. God damn.
I'm gonna be a little more conservative. I think the Eagles pull it out 27-23. It's gonna be very difficult for our secondary to cover 2 really, really good receivers. So yeah, I think it's gonna be a close game, and I think the Bucs are actually gonna have the chance to win it at the end. But I think the Eagles come through and finish it off.
Really? Wow. Okay. Hey, I mean, I don't know about. I don't know. It's going to be a great game. Anything could happen. Any given Sunday, or in this case Monday, I guess. So yeah, it'll definitely be fun to see. But yeah, we're coming to near the end of our episode. We really appreciate y'all coming on. We also appreciate our listeners. Thank y'all for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed Julian and Carlos mixing things up, giving us some Eagles talk. They're the biggest Eagles fans I know, so I had to have them on.
Birds.
That's right. Go Birds. Definitely hit that like and subscribe button if you enjoyed what you heard. Also follow us on social media at Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at RBLR Sports. So we really appreciate y'all. And as always, go Bucs.
Go Bucs.
Go Birds.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.